How I want to begin is, I'm just interested, as a child, did you dream of being an IT director?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all.
What was the big dream back then?
Believe it or not, I wanted to become a physiotherapist.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just didn't happen. So I got into IT purely by chance, took a job as a trainee computer operator,
Yeah.
and so began my IT career.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So you started off there, and that was with Glaxo.
Yeah, that's correct.
As a computer operator. So how did that come about? You just kind of, I don't know, don't want to say fell into the role, but you kind of fell into it?
I was a bit lost after I finished high school, and I had a friend who recommended me for a job at Glaxo as a trainee computer operator. It was just something to do until I worked out what I'm going to do with life.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people, and I learned a lot. Knew nothing about computers.
Yeah.
But they put me on courses, trained me, and ended up staying at the whole GSK franchise, if you like, for 25 years. So
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And your actual entry into tech was in the early 90s. And I did some research around this. And I was thinking that back then it would have been a very male-dominant kind of area in technology. But I was actually surprised to learn that in 1990, that was actually the peak of women participating in the world of technology. 31% of all roles were women. It's actually declined since, which is really interesting. So I'm just curious, what kind of, I guess, what did you learn about tech at that time? Or why do you think maybe, that kind of participation started to drop off?
I actually think back then they didn't support as well as they do now women returning to the workforce after maybe leaving to have children.
Yeah, okay.
And I actually think that's what I saw, is that people would have children and there were no options for part-time work.
Right.
And I actually think a lot of people left for that. And I know people personally that left. And unlike now, a lot of people get a lot of support to come back part-time or transition back. And there's a lot more support for women returning to the workforce. So I actually believe that contributed to that decline.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess some of those barriers don't exist today.
Yeah.
In the same ways. And you at that point, after a few years, switched completely. So you did this big pivot from computer programmer to medical sales rep. How did that come about?
So I got to a point at Glaxo where I was a little bit lost again. Didn't really want to go down the path of being a programmer or anything too technical. And a couple of colleagues suggested, why don't you try becoming a medical rep? Now, I knew nothing about it. But again, Glaxo was very good in nurturing talent and supported me to do training and learn about, the pharmaceutical industry, therapy groups, and I was lucky enough to be offered a job as a medical rep, and I stayed as a sales rep for 5 years, and
You're right.
it was an amazing experience.
You must have been pretty good.
Oh yeah, I think I was.
Yeah.
But taught me a lot also about really understanding the commercial side of the business.
Yeah.
That's when I really understood what Glaxo or Glaxo Wellcome and then later GlaxoSmithKline truly did, and engaged a lot with our the company's real customers, who are the doctors and the patients or healthcare professionals in general. But it gave me a good insight into what the commercial pressures are in an organization as well. Sometimes in support functions like IT, you don't really understand the commercial pressures.
Yeah.
And I learnt a lot that I still reflect on and use even now.
Yeah, right, because you're literally at the coalface.
Yeah,
at
literally.
that point in terms of the monetization of the business and how it operates. And so what would you say you learned from that experience that you've kind of carried through today?
Yeah. Even today, I really take the time to understand what the businesses truly need. So if I look at all my roles after that, it's really taking the time to talk to the business leaders, understanding the pressures, understanding the business strategies and how IT need to support the business and enable the business. It's really good having fancy tech initiatives, but if they're not going to enable the business growth, then it's a waste. It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
So it's really taking the time to understand what the business drivers are, how can we support the growth and partner and truly becoming a business partner.
Yeah, fantastic. So
Yeah.
really connecting the kind of the how and the what to the why.
Correct.
For why the business exists and what you're trying to achieve. I'm also interested. Like, you had a fascinating career with GSK, by the way.
Yeah.
Like we could spend all day, I think, and just talk about your experiences there. And then when you found yourself coming back from that into tech, you then went to Japan, right? So this is just like the story that just keeps going. But so what was that about? How did you find yourself in Japan?
So that was I was very fortunate. I had some great leaders who, three in particular, Joanne Malampy, Mark Chalmers at the time, who supported me in taking an opportunity to go to Japan. The role there was to bring Japan into the GSK fold. Again, building business partnerships with our global IT organization. I went there, I lived there, they were great. We lived as a family in Japan, so we were immersed in the culture, living in busy Tokyo, but really taught me a lot personally, really taught me to improve myself in terms of patience, being a lot more culturally aware as well. Mm-hmm. It is a very male-dominated culture, and even in a professional sense. So I had to really teach myself to be patient, respectful. It's a very respectful society, and resilience. I think that was also a very big learning for me. I had to really, head down, bum up, and just be patient, because things happen, but happen at a different pace in Japan. But it was an amazing experience, and loved it.
Yeah, I bet.
Pushed me out of my comfort zone, but that is the way that I learn, is when I'm out of my comfort zone. Okay. It's like a sink or swim sort of situation. So
you certainly swam.
And that was a sink or swim situation, and I think I swam.
Yeah, absolutely.